I have to say that this, for me, is the dream event. I mean, obviously, being able to see this film before the rest of the people in the UK is dream number one. But then to sit there in full knowledge that rolling up at the credits at the end are going to be some names of some really important people, and these are graduates from the BFI Film Academy. And I know that quite a few of you, thank you, exactly, a big woo to everybody who's been involved in the Film Academy. I know there's a lot of tutors here come from around the country. I know there are a lot of graduates. And it is really, really amazing scheme.
I got to see the film for the first time last night. You're in for a real treat. So, Phoebe, Thandie, two British of our British-born actresses. I imagine this is quite a strange project for you to have been involved in. Tell us a little bit about how it feels to be here on the launch of this film, Star Wars. I mean, did you ever imagine you'd be part of a project like this, Thandie?
Oh, God, no. No, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. You know, and I'm an actress, and I have been for a long time. But it was just a place that, I don't know, I was maybe 6 or 7 when the first film came out. I remember it because I could read, and it was a really big deal to be able to read the white scroll going up into black, and that incredible music, John Williams' music. And it's just, you almost don't want to imagine yourself in that place because it's so special. You know, Star Wars, and you have the toys, and Princess Leia and Chewbacca. And so when it happened, it was, you know, that I was asked if I would take part, it was completely surreal. It was the place for my children to be in awe of, not for me to actually be a part of it. And so then very quickly it just had to sort of become, okay, it's a job and I'm going to do it incredibly well because I need this to be, you know, in keeping with this extraordinary legacy that's been in our lives for 40 years. And I think that we managed to do that. I think we managed to do something pretty special. It's a real legacy project, isn't it? Phoebe, what about yourself? When you first got the call about being part of this project?
Yeah, I saw it coming. I could feel it from years building. I knew they were coming for me. Star Wars, like Thandie says, it never felt like a job you could have. Star Wars, because it's a place that you go. It's like it's such a fantasy world and that feels so real, that world, that it didn't really feel like something that you could actually be a part of in a wonderful way. And then so it's a curveball for, I imagine, anyone who ends up in the films for that reason. And it was it was a complete ride and a joy, and we all feel kind of touched with some magic having been a part of this huge canon of films. And you know, there'll be so many films probably after us, and there've been so many before that you just feel it's nice slotting into this huge sort of epic story.
And actually, I'm going to skip my first question and come to you, Ben, because I'm interested in your first connection with Star Wars as a young man. Tell us a little bit about how you really first got involved in Star Wars.
Well, it is how I didn't get involved in Star Wars, actually, Galen. So it's relevant to this programme because I am a Star Wars nut. And I remember, I've still got a letter from when I found out that they were going to make episode 1 back in, which would have been 98, 99, something like that. Yeah. And so I would have been sort of these guys' age then. And so like, oh my God, they're making a new Star Wars film. How amazing. There hadn't been one for 20 years. So I decided to write to Lucasfilm, who had a sort of temporary office on at Pinewood, and I got a reply. Back then you got a reply, and it was like, we're going to keep your letter on file. And so you're so excited. Like, they're keeping my letter on file. This is still there. Yeah. So, and obviously, yeah, good, it is still there. Never got pulled out the file. But I remembered it when we started our conversations with Lucasfilm about the opportunities in this programme, because truthfully, back then that was all I could do. Like, apart from having a real sort of desire and passion to do it, those routes to a job didn't exist. So when Lucasfilm came to us and said, look, we're keen to open up some avenues, I was just, Mum, they called, we're in.
They pulled my letter.
Yeah.
Simon, tell us a little bit about why Lucasfilm dreamt up this particular scheme and why you thought it was important.
So it came about for two reasons. One is we're super fortunate that the UK film and television industry is booming like never before. And we're really busy, and there is a genuine need to bring more people into the film industry. Kathy Kennedy, who's the president of the company and is a producer in all the films, I think has been a champion of diversity. And she'd always said to us, it's not just about diversity in front of the camera, it's about diversity behind the camera as well. And actually those two things are interlinked in a great way. And we happen to be talking to the BFI and saying we want to introduce this scheme where we can bring trainees in to sit across an entire production. So it really is, you actually get to really learn. And the idea is by the time you leave, you can go and get another job somewhere else and you're kind of ready to go. And Ben happened to mention that actually at the same time you guys had been creating a pool of trainees from across the country, from across all walks of life, diverse backgrounds. So literally it was a perfect time. And Solo is the trainees who worked on Solo are the product of that. So it was very fortuitous timing. Yeah.
Ben, can you tell us a little bit, for those of us who don't know, about the Film Academy and what work it does and how it fits into the story?
Sure. So Film Academy is for 16 to 19-year-olds. There's we run about 50 courses around the country every year through lots of different partnerships. We use, as Amanda mentioned, we're fortunate to have money from Department for Education, and we use National Lottery money as well. And those courses take place in school breaks, and they're different shapes and sizes. Some of them are quite sort of specific in terms of focusing on a particular skill. Some of them, I think, helpfully are quite general because at that age, it's pulling in participants who haven't really done anything formally at that point. So it's more a case of familiarizing yourself with some roles, because I think you think about film, you think I'm going to act or I'm going to write or I'm going to direct, and you don't think about the hundreds of roles which are required. I mean, it's an industry, it's got jobs which go for, I actually remember one of your colleagues, Carl, who's in the audience tonight, was saying to me that they were going to the local garden centre to recruit for kind of greensmen and sort of landscape artists, because people just didn't think about the relationship with film. So it was sort of two roles that the Film Academy serves really. One is just sort of outreach and communicating the wealth of roles on offer, which is something Interfilm does as well. And then actually getting people through the door. And then there's kind of a ladder you can do at some short courses, and then there's a couple of pinnacle moments, one of them run by NFTS, which is the residential program. So that was what we had there, as we talked to Lucasfilm about, was a kind of ready-made pool of young, passionate, talented, ready to go for it, young people that we could then introduce and start some selection processes.
So this call from Lucasfilms, you've got this pool of trainees, they're ready to go. Suddenly Star Wars calls, and it's like, give us some. Then what do you do? How did you then develop that?
Actually, I think this is really interesting to the sort of bigger diversity conversation, because when you've got a company which is kind of with leadership that is very committed to doing something, then it happens really quickly. So, we did a couple of PowerPoints and sort of talked about what the Film Academy was, and I've got great colleagues at the BFI, Jen and Grace, and kind of colleagues across the BFI who just were all kind of hands on deck, really sort of spelling out how this might work. Lucasfilm hired a sort of alumni officer to really sort of think about what it meant to bring some trainees onto set, which is more than just giving them a job, because for a lot of the trainees, this is their first job, they're moving away from home, they're going to have to find somewhere to live near Pinewood, to have to get to Pinewood. So you're going to have to get set ready. So we did a short introductory set readiness course just to talk about what it means to be on set in a very serious professional environment. And then, off we go.
So Nathan and Maria, you were two of those trainees in that pool. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved, Nathan. So then what happens? Do you just you get a call from Lucasfilm like, hey, you ready? You want to come down and help us make this film? What happened? How did you get involved? And I heard when you got the call, you didn't know it was going to be Star Wars. Is that right?
No, I don't think many of us that originally applied knew what we was about to get into. I was thinking it's going to be like a short, small feature film, 2 weeks. So it was like, oh yeah, paid. I was like, okay, yeah, and like expenses or whatever, like my travel there on the bus. I wasn't thinking like it was going to be anything big. So I applied. I actually didn't see the email. In fact, I saw the email and I brushed it off because I didn't really know what it was going to be. So I applied actually late originally. And so yeah, I applied late and I sent my application in, and then I got a reply saying, okay, we've got to the next stage. There's going to be a Skype interview. So I had a Skype interview with a lady called Denise. I believe she worked at ILM at the time. When I saw the email address, I started digging ILM. Okay, might be Lucasfilm. Ooh, it might be something. Had a call with her, and we talked, and it was a good interview, like 15 minutes or whatever. Actually, I remember I telling my brother at the time, I was like, yo, shh, on a download, shh, don't tell anybody, because I don't know who I can tell, but that's industry light and magic on the phone, Lucasfilm. And then after that interview, about 3 weeks later, I got told I would have an interview face-to-face with the production manager, Carl. So I went to Pinewood at the time, drove up there, and just had a quick, meeting, just talked about what the role would be, and just kind of what would happen. I think at the time there was actually testing. I think Bradford was across. It was in Pinewood. I think Bradford was testing cameras and lenses at the time. I think they were still prepping the set at 007. So it was all going on. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I remember just in case I didn't get in, I actually kept just the parking ticket. I've been here. So then after that, luckily, and then I had an interview with the second AC and the central loader at the time. I dressed a real smart shirt and tie. And was at Ari, and there was prepping camera kits and all, and the shoulders around. I was like, this is the big deal. And I was just waiting for that call. And I ended up just getting an email saying I had it. And I kept reading, just in case I didn't make anything wrong. I was like, I do have this job. And it was phenomenal to know. And it's you start in a week. So I had to move down there. I actually didn't have a place to stay. I couldn't find a place at the time. So I had to stay in a hotel for the entire first week. No idea where I was going to stay after that. And then it kind of all worked out. But it was just good that it was just, everyone was so supportive at the time as well. And just a phenomenal opportunity.
So you end up working with Bradford Young, who's the second Black Oscar-nominated cinematographer, an amazing creative. Tell us a little bit about what you learned from him.
Bradford's I wanted to learn kind of, about it, but what I've learned from Bradford was more, and I think if you ever meet him, he's a guy of philosophy and values. It wasn't necessarily, about what cameras he's using, just more of what he's trying to achieve, what he's trying to do. I think he's really grounded. The first day we walked in there and I met him. This was my first day. He showed me some love. I didn't expect to speak to him or anything, at least for a good 5 months or whatever. He said hello on first day, remember my name and everything. It was like, yo, this is crazy. And so, yeah, you get to know more about him. I was 19 when I first joined. So he kind of just taught me, about, growing up. And, it was, there's not many black people in the industry, as you know. So it was kind of nice having someone to just talk to about certain things, just to learn about certain things. It was more just about the values. And I think that's why, if you kind of look at his work, it's kind of more grounded in realism. He tends to talk about, he wants it to feel real, because I think he's not from a fairy tale land. The guy is a real, genuine person. And I think that's kind of it's in me now. I think whenever I see things now, it's just kind of viewing things through, I guess, his lens on the world. Just more of that. I don't know, the dude was amazing to me. If you ever get to meet and talk to the guy, and he always has time for everybody, which is so amazing. He will talk to everybody, know about your family, kids. Yeah, man. It's one of the people you got to meet. Yeah.
Thandie, you're nodding. I want to come to you now. And how is it like working with him?
Because those things matter. You know, Bradford, like, he clearly became your mentor.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredibly important in what we do, that we see ourselves as soon as we can potentially be mentors to people, you know, that we are. And it's not just about how you do things, it's about how you feel about doing those things, because that's what makes you get up in the morning. It's how you feel about it, it's the passion that you feel for what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, he really is one in a million, though, Bradford. He's a very special person. And, you know, he loves jazz. He could give up making films tomorrow to go and do something else. I mean, literally, you know, he hasn't put all his eggs in one basket, but he's really, really good at it. And that's because it's about he's wanting to be of value to the world. And I think one of the beautiful things about this program is that, you know, how can we be of value to the world if we're not reflecting the world? And diversity is part of that, you know. We can't, art is about a relationship between the viewer and what's on the screen or on the stage. You know, it's you know, we have to it's reciprocity, you know. So, you know, the more people that are behind the scenes or, you know, making the project that have visions from everywhere, the more we're going to be able to reflect, you know, visions from everywhere. And it's imperative. So, you know, I'm really so glad that that was your entrance into this business. You know, that you have come into it with a feeling of passion, because that's what you need, because there are going to be times where there is no work. There's a lot of that, you know, and what keeps you driving forward is that passion.
Yeah, absolutely right, and I can testify because I have seen the film. Just saying. I mean, the look of this film is remarkable, and I think it's to do with actually that he does look literally through a different lens, and that comes through that exactly what you're speaking of too. Maria, what was it like when you showed up? So tell us a little about, you've got quite an extraordinary story about how you found out you were going to be working on this film. So tell us a little bit about your entry into this world.
So I applied for it when I just finished college in Manchester, and I planned for a year of travelling back to the Philippines because I'm half Filipino. And then I had an interview with Denise from ILM, and it just said, you've got an interview with Red Cup Disney. And I'm like, what is Red Cup Disney? And I'm Googling it thinking, do I need to know this? And I didn't know different films have different like code names. And so I had to wait a couple of months to hear back, and I got through that stage. But I was already in the Philippines, and I was like, oh, please, can I still do this? Can I have my interviews over Skype? So I was doing my Skype interviews over in the Philippines. And then I had the final one, and then 5 minutes later they gave me the call saying, you've got the job. And then my mum was like, ah, screaming. And then we booked my flight the following week. And then I came back to England, had to find accommodation on that day. But I still thought it would be a small indie project. I didn't
so at this point you still didn't know
I didn't think it would be, you know, I just was like, oh, I'm going to work in film. I want to work in film. I don't matter what role it is. I want to be in film. So then I get there, you go through the gates, you go through security, and you're like, oh, this is like real. You see the Lucasfilm sign in reception, going up the stairs, and then my boss, Dom, was like, welcome to Star Wars, and my mouth just dropped. I was like, what? I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I need to Skype my mom, but I was like, I've just signed an NDA. I was like, oh, this is insane. I was like, I can't tell her. So, and then they put the radio on you, and I'm still shook at this point. And I go on to like stage B, and it was this mud pit, and then I'll just look up and go, and it's Chewbacca walking past me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I go in this tent to give him a cup of tea, and I'm just like, hi, and I was just like, just the first day seeing Chewbacca and the stunt double, he's called Ari, and he's from Liverpool, and hearing his accent, I was like, oh my gosh, this is just all so surreal, and just, so that was, first day thrown into the deep end.
So tell us about being an assistant director. That's a very, very lofty, important position. Why did you choose that, and what did you get from that?
I just love knowledge, and I love being in the know, and that department, you get to speak to every different department, from creatures to special effects to visual effects to sound to camera, and I love learning about all people's passions. And for that, it's all about logistics. You see a call sheet, and I remember the first time looking at a call sheet, like, what is this? And the breakdown, and looking after cast. And then I remember meeting Thandie for the first time, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've watched you on screen. And I just love that department because, you're always speaking to different people, and just the knowledge that you can gain from that. And it really does build your confidence up because you have to, speak to everyone.
I mean, it's a real testament to yourself, because I've been on a couple of sets and nothing to the scale of Star Wars. I would have been terrified. I think I probably would have just turned around and walked out. What helped you kind of deal with that and deal with that kind of intensity of a set?
I think my mum, she's a strong female that has inspired me, and I've always seen her be a female boss. And then being on set, it is intimidating. A lot of people, there's all different age ranges, but there's a lot of strong females on set, and the third AD, Emily, and there was a lot of mentors and that, will give you advice and be like, oh, you can do this certain way. And I think just being thrown in that area on set and looking out, and you feel empowered every day, oh, I'm here, I'm valued, and this is my role. And, you just feel empowered being on set.
Phoebe, I want to ask you, because from yourself as well, you're an actor, you're a writer, you're a showrunner, you've been in lots of different roles in front and behind the camera. Does it make a difference in terms of what the makeup of a set looks and feels like from your point of view, either as an actor or as a producer? Do you think that the kind of project, I guess, that's happening here to look at not just what's happening in front of the screen, but also what's happening behind the screen, what impact could that have for you, for example?
Yeah, I think it always has a huge impact in any part of life, as well as in any part of a set but it's particularly with an industry that is so dedicated to stories, and it is built up of storytellers. And the idea that you can get the same story told over and over again by the same pool of people is something. And I'm not just talking about the writers and the producers, I'm talking for the whole level, because a lot of the people interviewed there were saying that they want to be a director, they want to be a DOP in the end. They will end up being the people who really are dictating what the stories are at the top. And I think as long as it's a closed shop and it's one kind of voice and it's one kind of person, we'll just start eating ourselves. And we already have. And it's boring and it's suffocating. And I think we instantly grow the more, however different perspectives we meet and the points of view that we have on set the whole time. And we grow so quickly, and the stories get more interesting. There's so much more authenticity. There's much less stereotyping or cliche, and the truth can sing louder. And I think that's a good thing.
Because it's very, very easy for it to stay the same.
Yeah.
So easy.
Yes.
And it takes almost accidents for it to change.
Yes.
So the fact that it's actually changing on purpose is huge.
Yes.
What Phoebe's saying is how quickly things do change. And it's like, oh, this is very comfortable. This is actually
you have
normal.
To force it through.
Yeah, you have to force it through. But then how quickly it's normalised.
Yes.
And
especially in terms of crew, working as a trade on a set. So effectively you learn your trade, and then you get known for that trade, and you get hired for that trade. And it's really hard if you're the producer or you're hiring that crew to take a risk, isn't it? Is that kind of what you find, Simon, in terms of being a producer? How do you approach that?
The truth is, it's a business. It's the film business, and our job is to minimise the risk. But there's no risk in what we're doing now. There truly is only reward. I see this as an investment. In fact, I was saying to Ben earlier that, these guys already have gone out and worked on other shows, and they're earning money, and they're, putting money back into the economy. That is an investment. And I said to Ben earlier, I left school at 16 a long time ago, and I went to work in the film business, and there was no government support. There was nothing. There was no schemes like this. And literally, I'd have banged that door down. It's so important. And I hope that more companies will be able to do this with, support from the BFI and from the National Lottery, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah.
We'll come to what next in a minute. There's a couple of questions from the audience. But Thandie, can we talk about the dress? Why not? Know about the dress? Can we have a look at the picture of the dress?
Oh my God, really?
Here's the dress. So, Thandie, can you tell us a little bit about why you had this dress commissioned and the kind of story that's within it?
Oh goodness, it was kind of my love note to Star Wars in a way. I have a little boy, he's 3, and I have 3 children actually, and we've always played with dolls, obviously, and it's really important to me that they have diversity from the moment they can see, the moment they can, think. So picture books, I will literally go in with a felt tip and I will change the colour of the kids in the books if they're not already diverse. Because it starts there, it just does. It's what is normal to you. And our house is, covered with faces of people from all over the world and a lot of dark skin. And in the toys that they play with. And, my kids love Star Wars. They always have, my big girls, and my little boy's playing. And I'm sort of realizing over time that there are only 6 dark-skinned Star Wars lead characters. And there are many, many, many other, lighter-skinned characters. And I found myself in, Star Wars. And it wasn't until after the film finished that a friend of mine who's a massive Star Wars nerd, maybe on your level, my friend, who informed me that I was the first woman of colour to have a leading role. There have been many other actresses and actors who've had smaller roles, but haven't had, lines or, whatever. And I was absolutely shocked. And not only was I also then very proud and how significant this was, but I also thought about the people who 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago had been people of colour who had stood proudly on the stage of Star Wars. And I wanted to remember those people because they are also why I'm here. And they were the faces, I had someone take photos of the toys that I had in my house. And I asked Vivienne Westwood if she would make a dress. And she's a bit of a rebel, pretty dope. So she loved the idea. And this was my, love note. And I will say that in looking at all the characters from Star Wars, when I was sort of researching for this dress, I, found a lot of different characters. And there's one character who played Oola in Empire Strikes Back. She played Jabba the Hutt's slave dancer. And she didn't have a beautiful dark skin. She was actually painted green. And she's very memorable. If you've seen, those,
Who remembers Oola?
Yeah.
Here we go.
And if I can just say, someone on Twitter, after I wore this dress, someone on Twitter wrote, does anybody realise that the woman that played Thandie Newton's mother in her first film when I was 16 years old, she played my mum. We worked together for one... I know, I invited her. She played my mum for one day on this movie in Australia, and she played Oola in the very first films. And I just want to say to you, Femi Taylor, it's because of people like you who stand proud, who work their asses off, and here you are. So, I think, it's something to celebrate. It's, bitterness doesn't get us anywhere. It's about moving forward, always moving forward, pushing it through, and then allowing it to accelerate in the way that it joyously does because it's natural and normal for us all to be together, working together, and, being part of communities that are making the world a better place. And it starts small and it gets bigger, like Star Wars.
And what I love about what you gifted in this dress is it's completely in keeping with the Star Wars legacy, which is about preserving. It's about preserving that memory. Everyone knows who their characters are and how they're related, and there's something about weaving it into fabric which I think is incredible.
Thank you.
So quick, I'm going to jump over to you guys, and there's a couple of questions from the audience. So Ben, what next? So this has been 28. How many people came through this round of? 28 people.
By the way, nothing else matters now because Ula's in the audience. A sort of nerdgasm moment. Yeah. Anyway, I can't really focus on what you were saying, Gailey. So, yeah, I mean, there's a bigger kind of project going on and has been for the last couple of years looking at sort of skills. And we ran a big sort of skills review last year, which basically sort of identified, guess what, there's lots of skills shortages and how do you address that? So we kind of published a skills strategy last year, creative skill set. I've just started to kind of deliver that. As part of that, obviously, we think the BFI Film Academy is really important in providing that sort of possibly first doorway for lots of people. We've had a really brilliant experience on this program with Lucasfilm, who I just have to really hand it to because they've gone all out to make sure that it wasn't sort of tokenistic, and they've invested a lot of time and money and people in it. And to your point, Thandie, you know, the mentorship that's come from the heads of departments has been critical to it. So anyway, it's all been great. So good news is we're doing it again. We're doing it on episode 9. Which is happening soon, I think.
It is.
I guess. And I'd say to everyone in the audience, obviously some kind of BFI Film Academy grads here as well, but I'd implore everyone who's sort of interested in sort of this route, or parents or friends, you know, Google BFI Film Academy, go to skill set, and you know, start to get involved like these guys have, because these opportunities happen. And you know, we are actively encouraging everyone who's making films in the UK. And I look after the Film Fund, so that we work mostly on independent film. You know, there's films of all shapes and sizes being made in the UK, and they all need talented, passionate, skilled, brilliant people to work on them. And we're really fortunate that we've got a tax relief, we've got people making films here. We've really got to make the most of this moment, so we're in it.
I think I've got to add that one of the really important reasons that we're here tonight is to try and say to a much larger part of the country that there really are opportunities in the film industry. And you know, I said before that the film industry is booming. It is a growth industry. There are, I think, 5,000 jobs which are going to be filled in the next 10,000 over the next 5 years. And this really is about, and I'm going to steal a quote from Amanda, which is talent is everywhere and opportunities aren't. And this is about creating opportunities. And I say to anybody who's got the passion of these guys have displayed, if you've got that passion and if we can give you an opportunity, there is a career in the film industry. And there are many careers. And one of the things that we're going to be working on is demystifying the film industry. Because I think a lot of people think, well, I'm never going to be able to work in the film industry. It's an unattainable dream. And I think Creative Skill Set are going to be putting together a website, an online resource where you can see all the different opportunities that there are in the film industry, but also how you can find those opportunities, how you can access them. And it's really important that we draw from talent from every walk of life, from every part of the country. But please, the message is there are opportunities, and come find them.
Okay, a couple of questions. I think we have Charlene from Project Noir waiting to ask a question.
Yes, hi. My question is for Thandie. Basically, I wanted to ask you, why is representation important for you, and what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind as an actor?
I suppose it's important for me personally because I think about how I felt when I was a kid, which is obviously unique to me and has changed a lot. But when I was growing up in Cornwall, we were one of very few mixed, families, and I did not see other people like me anywhere. apart from in my house with my mum and my brother. And for me, it just normalized not seeing people of color, not seeing myself in situations. So I grew up deeply insecure. And strangely, what made me feel less insecure was dancing and, you know, the arts, because it was a place where it didn't really matter how I looked or what people thought of me. You know, it was a hobby. And then it led me, you know, ultimately into the film industry. But I just realized that, you know, yes, I had a talent and I built on that and it led me to this place. I'm very fortunate. But my sense of self, my sense of self-worth was crippled because I didn't see other people like me. And I desperately want to help other people who feel like that, because I was lucky that I ended up using my, you know, talent as a dancer that then became an actress. But maybe, you know, for other people, they don't have that talent and they can find themselves feeling, you know, miserable. And it's for that reason, it's really for mental health. And I know that, you know, the thing about television and film is it's in every person's living room, and it's a way to feel less alone. So it just, I want to fill these screens that enter our homes with people like me, and so that other people like me will feel better about themselves. It's really very, very simple. And as Phoebe was saying, it's not just about the film industry, it's every industry. And we're in a very exciting time. And like I said, you know, I was little 30 years ago, 40 years ago, oh my God, I'm kidding myself. But so things have changed. I'm not saying they haven't changed, but, you know, we're in London right now, and it's very different to being, you know, outside of these cities. It really is. And, you know, I just think that Brexit happened, okay? And no matter what you feel about Brexit, that's partly because of the fear of diversity, the fear of, you know, mixing everybody up. But that's the future, that's a reality. And we have to just accept that. And I think the more that we see representation on screen that enters people's homes in every kind of, you know, drama or comedy or whatever, the less alone people will feel.
And there's one more question from Jide from Go Up Magazine.
Hi guys, good evening. I haven't even seen the film yet, but I'm proud of you guys, man. It sounds like it's going to be epic. But so as co-founder of the world's first video magazine, using technology such as augmented reality has been like paramount importance for my career development. So I just wanted to know, how has the shifts in technology been important for you guys in your own personal career development, and how can it play a role in creating more opportunities like this in the future?
Maybe Simon, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, technology, particularly with Star Wars and with Lucasfilm, we're always looking for new ways to help tell stories. The important thing is that when a new technology comes along, that hopefully you use it to further the understanding of the story, and not just as a gimmick. We've done, I don't know if you've seen them, but we've done some virtual reality pieces within Star Wars with ILM's XLab division, which is pretty remarkable. And I think, you know, gaming, there's a huge future in augmented reality and virtual reality within gaming. And really, in terms of how does it relate to this, it's the same thing. It's about people seeing there's an opportunity there, but it's incumbent on us to help people to find those opportunities. And I think, you know, if you know a bunch of stuff about how you do it, how you get into it, do me a favor, put it on a website and try and get the message out there. And that's what we need to do, is communicate to people, this is how you can join this. But yeah, that's...
I think that we're almost running out of time, but I want to end with you, Nathan and Maria. So what next for you guys? What are you working on next, and how are things looking?
So I've got Wonder Woman 2 lined up in July.
Do you now?
And that is all to do with...
Is there a role for either of us? Really cool. Just put in a good word, that'd be really good.
This is all from this program, because I met my boss, Dom Fish. He took me on to Detective Pikachu. That was surreal. And then he's taken me on to Wonder Woman. And so this kind of stepping stone gives you a network to meet so many different people and have so many different conversations. I didn't imagine I would have conversations with people that I look up into the industry and they become my friends. But yeah, so I've got that coming up, and just making small projects with friends that I've met through the BFI Film Academy. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
And Nathan, what about yourself?
Nothing confirmed yet. There's like whispers and things going around, but we'll see if it gets confirmed. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff getting made currently, so hopefully I can try and land myself on some of those. But I mean, as Maria kind of said, we've kind of, ever since this, we haven't really stopped working. No. So, like, yeah, the people we've met on this job, you know, we've met the top and, like, I guess the inner circle, and a good circle to be a part of. So I'm sure something will come up. Oh yeah.
I think you should check your phone now. It's probably ringing.
There actually is. But for tomorrow.
Yeah, but Nathan, you also just worked with Gorinda Chadha. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I did a film with Gorinda. She made the film Bend It Like Beckham. I think most of you guys remember that. We did a film for about 6 weeks of shooting. I just finished that last Monday. I did a Sky One TV drama like a day after we finished this in Liverpool called Bulletproof. So that was Ashley Walters and Noel Clark, yeah. And so yeah, and then I got a little bit of Black Mirror I'm gonna do with a few guys that was on this.
Not bad.
Nathan, I think I can say safely say you're a poker playing man, right?
Keep the cards close. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens after that.
Well, I think I was saying earlier that we have lots of brilliant premieres here at the BFI, and this has probably been the one that I was most looking forward to, because this is kind of what it's all about. It actually is about how do you shift and make things change so that in 5 years' time we have a different set of films on the screen made by a different set of people. So I want to thank you all, not just for coming, but for being involved in this. And thank you, guys, and congratulations, really.